What is going on, you guys? My name is Rage and we are back today with a quick overview of the Gambit raids that are coming, as well as two, in my opinion, very useful infographics for your guys' reference, just in preparation for ultimately the Gambit raids, but as well as coordinating with your alliance in terms of, where you're going to be slotted in and how the formation is going to look overall. So before I get started, huge shout out to Benny Westside here. I love his infographics. A picture is always worth more than 1,000 words, and honestly speaking, this is just going to give you a great overview here of all every single character is worth value to you, especially if you're going through the 4 different lanes here, being hearts, spades, diamonds, and lastly clubs. Now I actually reviewed it already, and I highly agree with everything that's been classified here, because I think these are all characters that a lot of folks will likely have built up, and as well as characters that already have value in the end game, or you're building towards other game modes that have come out. So overall, high level, it goes without saying that diamonds and clubs are two of the hardest ones, just because of the fact that it's just the synergies, right? We don't get enough character synergies in there, and it could be completely up to the fact that it's RNG based, and as well as the enemies we're up against. So that is where I kind of wanted to spend more time kind of just reviewing in terms of ideas here. But diamonds and clubs, in my opinion, I definitely would recommend maybe having some of your stronger alliance members situated in those lanes respectfully, and I'll dive into the lanes a little bit later in this video. But I just wanted to give a huge shout out, because this infographic really does summarize for us in terms of every character that's going to be of value, and if you haven't built up or close, I would recommend building them up, just so that way you can even utilize them in case you guys need to pivot during these time-packed raids. So starting with clubs here, you can see the big 3 is going to be Silver Surfer, T'Challa, and as well as Yondu. And it's nice because at least Yondu and T'Challa are going to have synergies. He's going to be able to summon fellow Ravagers to assist. And then following after the S-Class, that's where it's going to get interesting, because, Shatterstar, Taskmaster, and as well as Thor, not really in the meta anymore. They're utilized in other game modes. Asgardian's getting that rework. Spider-Punk I actually have built up quite a bit, so I'm likely utilizing him if I'm helping out in any way for the clubs. But overall, it's not a great combination, as you can see. Even with the C-Class, I don't recommend even bringing up new characters such as Sunfire and Gambit, just because they're just not going to be providing much value and synergies there. But if you can bring in the top 5 being Surfer, T'Challa, Yondu, maybe slide Taskmaster and Spider-Punk, I think that'd be an okay mixture. Hopefully the RG falls in your factor. Next up, diamonds here, right? It goes without saying, but Nebula as well as Gamora combinations a lock. You need to have those two, even despite Nebula being lower end. But Symbiote, Spider-Man, Carnage gonna have synergies there, with them being the fellow symbiotes. As well, if you can get your hands on Gambit or Morbius, or as well as Voodoo, there is synergies there. Unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend Magic, just because she doesn't really have a lot of synergies here. So those previous 5 is who I would recommend. I think Diamond is definitely going to be the interesting one, because there is a lane strictly focused on Diamond. Well, we can get some assistance from other players, which is nice. Spades and Hearts goes without saying, probably going to be the easier combination of the bunch. And the good news is there's quite a few lanes, which I'll show you later, where we're going to be able to have synergies with the other diamonds and clubs, so forth, right? And so fortunately, these 2 lanes are actually quite stacked with the number of characters, so I'm not worried if players are not going to be ready, because especially in Spades, having access to both Morgan Le Fay and Deathpool, absolutely huge. Thanos being able to channel energy into them, and then you still have good crowd control such as Spider-Man OG as well as Jubilee, and Scarlet Spider, he's just going to be there if needed. But overall, I think that's a really good pool that we can already utilize. Hearts, similar both to Spades. Sharon Carter, Dagger, Emma Frost, Agatha Harkness, Ghost Spider, Spider-Woman, even adding Ghost and Nico Minoru, who a lot of players are likely bringing in right now just because of the A-Force and getting ready for the secondary Scourge. This is a really generous pool. I think this is going to work really nicely when we do have those lanes where we can actually pair up against diamonds and clubs. So I think overall, those 2 are pretty good. I wish diamonds and clubs were a little bit more balanced, but it goes without saying, they need to throw a challenge into our attempts here to make sure that we keep things spicy. Before I move on, I just want to give a huge shout out to Benny Westside. I'm going to post this link to the image here, so that way you guys can review a high level, because again, I think he did a phenomenal job. Now next up, I am going to show you guys something I worked on my free time for my alliance here, and that's going to be the lane mapping here. Overall, I had a chance this weekend to actually go through and take a look at, you know, how the lanes are going to be looking from 1 to 8, and as well as more of the expectations of what they're going to be facing up against, right? So you can see 1 to 8, very straightforward here. You're going to have hearts and diamonds pretty isolated, doing their own thing. So how we were building up our team was just getting a sense of where the strengths and weaknesses of every one of our alliance members are, and then afterwards really being able to see we can complement them and slot them in those pathways, because if they don't have diamonds, spades, or clubs built up, it does make sense to slot them in those lanes, and that way there's also minimal investment, right? Because keep in mind, this is a temporary event, and we don't want to overdo it just because it's temporary, and as well we don't know if it's returning back. Lanes 2 and 7, the blue lanes, this is where it gets interesting, because they're able to actually join lane 1 and 8, you know, right next to them respectfully from the beginning, or they can help out in that side lane where there are going to be spades and clubs required. So the correspondence with our lines has been, if they have any you know, a smaller team such as spades and clubs being involved, it is technically only 1 node for each. If they're able to help out maybe with lanes 3 and 6, they're able to push through and then join ways with lanes 1 and 8. As you can see, they join up there on row number 6 to actually complement and push them all the way to the very end, because with the numbers and the nodes that there are, it needs to be done to ensure that everyone's getting a fair amount of attacks and attempts. We don't know how the healing is going to work yet with its separate pool, so that's why we need to be mindful of that. But for sure, one person cannot take down lanes 1 and 8 just due to the number of nodes to go all the way to the very end. Next up, this is where it gets interesting. You can see highlighted in the yellow boxes here is what in my opinion is called the flex area. Lanes 3 and 6. With lanes 3 and 6, they're really going to be able to kind of assess the situation. I personally would recommend them waiting on everyone else before they get started, because they can see how lanes 4 and 5 are doing before they even dive in, just due to the fact that you can see here there's a lot of room they can wiggle with. And as well, for your guys' alliance placement, I highly recommend putting your lanes 3 and 6 as your most diverse players, because you can see in the yellow footing here in the screenshots, there is going to be a lot of nodes they have to go through. They're going to be working in tandem with the blue lanes, which is 2 and 7, and as well as potentially 4 and 5 being the red lanes, because of how much intersection there is going to be. That said, they need to have pretty deep rosters, because they'll be combinating clubs and spades, and then ultimately getting into that mixture of hearts and diamonds later on, progressing towards that final pathway to Gambit as being the boss node. Now, that said, guys, the last lanes to touch on then is red, respectfully, for lanes 4 and 5, and in my opinion, next to lanes 3 with that next to lanes 3 and 6 with the flex, I think they're going to be the hardest lanes, just because they have a lot of nodes to go through. They're going to need assistance from the yellow lanes, but as well, they're going to be kind of on their own a little bit when they're pushing through that final lane path until they meet up at the very end, being rows number 13. So there you guys have it. I am also going to link this image in the description below. Please feel free to forward to your alliance members and spread as much as you can, because try to utilize as much information as we can possibly distribute to the community to help them in this very jam-packed, but you know, in my opinion, very exciting event. You know, we haven't done a lot of spreadsheet work as of late, and it's been nice to actually combine all this data analytics into now a strategy that we can execute. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I hope these 2 infographics are going to help you kind of get organized here, but got a few more days to prepare. Maybe you can see where your gaps are, but good luck with your guys' organization and strategy. I hope everyone can get their hands in on this, because it looks like it's going to be fun, even with the RNG factor. It's exciting, it's new, and definitely looking forward to another challenge. So thank you as always, you guys. Do appreciate you checking my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.